original knowledge of God came from the land of Eden, the land of the Agikoyo. And it was from these lands that the greatest wisdom of the world was dispersed first to the land of ancient Egypt and then to the rest of the world. In ancient Egypt, the wise sage known as Thoth, whom the Egyptians later attributed to deity, hence the god Thoth of the Egyptians, came up with a summary of the greatest wisdom of the universe, which is summarized as the emerald tablet of Thoth, or the emerald tablet of Hermes Trismegistus. Now, I'll just read you a rendition of what this emerald tablet states, the one that was interpreted by Sir Isaac Newton. It reads thus: "'Tis true without lying, certain and most true. That which is below is like that which is above, and that which is above is like that which is below, to do the miracles of one only thing. And as all things have been and arose from one by the meditation of one, so all things have their birth from this one thing by adaptation. The sun is its father, the moon is its mother. The wind hath carried it in its belly, the earth its nurse. The father of all perfection in the whole world is here. Its force or power is entire, if it be converted into earth. Separate thou the earth from the fire, the subtle from the gross, sweetly with great industry. It ascends from the earth to the heaven, and again it descends to the earth, and receives the force of things superior and inferior. By this means you shall have the glory of the whole world, thereby and all obscurity shall fly from you. Its force is above all force, for it vanquishes every subtle thing, and penetrates every solid thing. So was the world created. From these are and do come admirable adaptations, whereof the means or process is here in this. Here I am called Hermes Trismegistus, having the three parts of the philosophy of the whole world. That which I have said of the operation of the sun is accomplished and ended." Now, in some of the renditions or some of the translations, the second line reads that as above, so below. And that this is the basis of doing all the miracles that are required for the earth to be reinvigorated to support life in its entirety. Now, if one were to take an in-depth look into this declaration of Hermes Trismegistus, or the god Thoth, you would discover that what is being described is the process of global hydrological system. That is how the sun heats up the earth and aspirates moisture from the earth. And once this moisture is aspirated into the skies, it is driven about the heavens, spread out into the four cardinal locations of the heavens, according to the hydrological rivers of the land of, the hydrological rivers, the atmospheric rivers or the sky rivers as originating from Eden. Now, these are spread out to the rest of the entire world, and they fall down as precipitation. Now, when this process is properly safeguarded, it's the perfect process for the enabling of life upon the earth. The kind of miracles this process achieves, well, I would dare say there is no greater miracle than the miracle of life itself. Now, this is the truth that was passed on from the ancestors of the Agekoyo, to the keeping of the land of ancient Egypt. And by the way, the name Pharaoh in ancient Egypt simply means the king. And this was the king who was overseer of the entire world. His principal duty was to keep the secrets of the land of Eden, and also to protect the interior of Africa, where this land of Eden is located, the source of life, the source of all life upon the planet Earth, or rather, the channel of life from the Creator to the earth. The Pharaoh was he who guarded the interior of Africa from the rest of the nations of the world from ever coming down to Africa and damaging the tree of life and the land of Eden. Now, truth. What is truth? Now, you remember when Jesus was being questioned of Pontius Pilate, the procurator of Judea, that Jesus declared that he was talking the truth, but people wouldn't listen. Hence, Pilate questioned of Jesus what exactly truth is. And I would also ask you, what do you think truth is? Now, you'd be surprised that truth is just not anything that has been stated, but rather, truth is all knowledge and attributes which supports the exuberance and continuity of the natural existence, as opposed to deception and lies which negate and limit the fullness of life. Truth is all that encourages and perpetuates the attributes of life. Truth is that which supports all gears the tendencies of life to eternity and wholesomeness. Now, in John chapter 8 verse 32, we do hear that Jesus declares to the world that ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. For without truth, there is no freedom. Well, you'd also remember that Jesus declared himself as the water of life. And this water of life, the source of life, however, does descend down to the earth and requires to reach all of humanity upon the planet Earth. Now, Jesus descended from the heavens and came down to earth, and again ascended back into heaven, as an example of how the hydrological system of the entire world descends up to heaven and descends again as precipitation, as the flow of the blood of life. However, for this flow to be maintained and to succeed, the tree of life has to be maintained and kept in its near perfect, constitution. Now, the name for truth among the ancient Egyptians was Ma'at or Mat. Among the Agekoyo, we know truth as Ma, and our truth, we call it as Maito. Now, the name Maito or Maito is also the name for mother, as of one's mother is one's Maito. Now, hence, our nursing mother, the mother from whom the Agekoyo nation nursed from, is their truth, that is their Maito. Now, this Maito is actually that same Ma'at of the ancient Egyptians, and it is the Mayet, it is the Emet or Emayet of the Hebrews, and in ancient Sanskrit, it is the origin of the name Matar or Matar, or which was the name that gave birth to the name of mother among the European languages. Now, Maito, or our truth, as recounted in the Agikuyu song and dance, essentially is centralized upon the description of our land as the axis moody of the world, the land upon which the tree of God, the Mote wa Gai, or the tree of life, is instituted and has perpetually belonged to. Now, let me describe to you concerning the constellation known as Crux. Now, the constellation Crux is one of the brightest constellations of the southern hemisphere. It is not seen from the northern latitudes of the northern hemisphere, but anyone below the equator or just above the equator and southward is able to witness the glory of this constellation any time of the year, as long as they would be prepared to stay long into the night, depending on the season upon which this constellation is rising. Now, Crux constellation was the inspiration behind the letter Tav of the Hebrews, or the cross itself. Now, the cross is the symbol for the tree. And which tree? Either the cross of the crucifixion or the tree itself. Now, the name tree, as we discover, begins with the letter T itself, or the letter Tav. Now, hence, the origin of the name T-Ri, or the T as the cross, and Ri means life. Hence, the cross of life is the name tree. And this cross of life, as in the constellation Crux, is the great mystery which one needs to follow in order to discover the land of Eden and the tree of life. According to the wisdom of as above so below, all the constellations of the heavens are congruent upon the land forms of earth by the land features of the earth itself. Hence, a particular bright star in the heavens has its own copy of either a mountain or a lake or a water fountain upon the earth. I believe in Revelation chapter 13, this is the message that we find of the three angels who fly in mid-air, who declare that, I believe it reads that, and I saw another angel flying in the midst of heaven, having the everlasting gospel to declare to all nations and tribes and people, saying, fear God and give glory to him, for the hour of his judgment is come. Worship him who made the fountains, the waters, the sea, etc., etc. Hence, the message of this angel drives us back to the wisdom of Hermes Trismegistus, that as above, so below. The fountains on earth, the mountains on earth have got their congruent arrangement of features in the constellations of the heavens. Now, the key to locating the land of Eden is the land upon earth, which has got the same configuration of landforms as the stars of the constellation Crux. Well, in ancient times, diverse tribes of the nations sought for this land, but none were able to attain to this land except for my ancestors, the Agikuyu. Well, this knowledge was pretty commonplace in those ancient times, that this constellation is the key to locating the land of Eden. And so the sages of those days, ranging from the America to China, you do find that various nations, ancient nations of the world, have got their ancient shrines and monuments roughly in the configuration of a cross. However, the cross of the landforms of China and those of the land of the American Indians or any other part of the world do not congruent the constellation Crux. It is only the sacred landforms of the land of Gekuyu which congruence this constellation. It was my ancestors, the Gekuyu, who through careful research and quest were the first to return back to the land of Eden. And according to the prophecies or to the histories of the Hopi Indians, the first man who was to find God or to find this, what do they call him, the skeleton man. This skeleton man, they call him Mausau. The first man to find Mausau, which is in relation, or it refers to the first human people to locate this land of Eden, were to be king over the rest of the world. And it was hence my ancestors who found Mausau, or this skeleton man, that is the congruence of the heavens matching the landform upon which they discovered, and they became the rulers of the ancient world. Now, this history is what the Europeans and the rest of the world do not want us to know, that it was an African people, a black African people, who through careful research and study navigated throughout the world and discovered the land of Eden. And after discovering this precious land, that is after they had been cast out of Eden, they were the first to return to this land. They returned and were in proximal communication with the Almighty and were instructed about how to maintain the land of Eden and the tree of life. My ancestors were able to maintain this land for all the generations that followed up until the year 1860. Now, just before I get to how the Gekuyu maintained this land and how this knowledge was passed on from generation to generation in perpetuity until the year 1860, I would want to describe to you just how the constellation Crux congruences the land of the Gekuyu. Now, in the cultural practice of the Gekuyu, just before they perform any sacrifice to Ngai or Mwenenyaga, they would first demarcate the shrine or the area the congregation were to be assembled by placing 4 boulders approximately in the 4 cardinal locations of the world, of the field upon which this sacrifice was to be done. In the midst of that location were to be one of the sacred trees, either the fig tree, the mogumo, or the mokoyo tree, and within the midst of the field they would place 4 stakes. I mean 2 stakes in the form of a cross. Actually, I would roughly show you in this drawing how they would do it. If you can see that in red, that is how they would do it. A boulder, there would be the boulder, and in the approximate midst they would place 2 long stakes at the center. Now, why did they do this? The reason that they did this was in recognition of their own land and the features of their own land as the congruence of the gateway to the heavens, the constellation known as Crux. And this shrine, or this tabernacle, this altar that they would build, was the altar to the God who is Enikai, or the source of the waters of the world and the source of all life. Among most African tribes as well, they relate in their mythology that in ancient times the heavens and the earth were attached to each other. Before, the earth was lifted up away from the earth, and the scars, the umbilical scar remained attached. And this umbilical star was the axis mundi, the tree of God, and its location, it's the land of Eden. Now, according to the images that you are seeing right now, you will observe that the star A crux of the constellation crux matches up with the Mount Kirinyaga or Kiremagia Kirinyaga, which simply means the mountain of the tree that is of great width and prominence. That's the English interpretation of what Kiremagia Kirinyaga means. Now, the Beta crux or Mimosa matches up with the region of Tara, which is just beyond the Kirimambogo. Now, Kirimambogo means the mountain of God. Or the Maasai people call it Oldoño Sabuk, which means the great mountain. Now, Delta crux would congruent or would fall upon the region of Naivarsha. Now, Nai means leading, and Varsha means rainfall region. That is in Sanskrit. Avasha is a rainfall region. So the leading rainfall region, or the first rainfall region from the axis mundi, was this Lake Naivasha region. And Gakrux matches up with the region or the plateau of Saikeri, and Saikeri would mean way following the tree, or the place which is along the tree, or rather the apex on the top of the canopy of the tree. The land of the Agekoyo, there is also Gina, this star that has recently been named, and it's been named from one of the names of that particular star of the Australian Aboriginals. This star Gina matches up with the region or the midpoint of the mountains of Nyandarua. Now, Nyandarua means the wide and high mountains of the sacred, or the sacred wide and high mountains. Now, Nyandarua, or apparently, is all mountainous country, and that's why they are called the Aberdare Ranges by the Europeans. They came and decided to rename these mountains according to the Lord Aberdare, but well, to us they are still the Nyandarua Mountains or the Nyandarua Ranges. Now, this Nyandarua is almost a metathesis of the name Nyarwanda. Now, Rwanda is also a chiefly mountainous country in Eastern Africa, and you'd be amazed that this etymology, or the naming of the name of the mountain of the country of Rwanda, is similar to the naming of the country of Nyandarua. Now, let's get back to the name Gikoyo. Now, Gikoyo means the great and deep well, or the well without a bottom, or the well that does not, whose waters do not end. Now, the name also means the great fig tree, in relation to the Mokoyo tree, which, Mokoyo is the fig tree, and hence Agekoyo is a gigantic and great fig tree. Now, Gekoyo country, if you are to look at it, in this relation of the constellation crux, is actually this letter T, or the letter cross, spread across the entire land. The one point is the Mount Kirinyaga, the other point is the Saikeri Plateau, and the other points are either the Mimosa, the Kirimambogo or the Tara region, and Tara apparently means Earth Star, and the Naivasha region, or also the Nyandarua Ranges. Any of those ancient and sacred landforms of the Agekoyo, which were actually what the ancient mythology described as the land given to Gekuyu by God himself. Now, this entire land of the Gekuyu and its surrounding is in the configuration of the star of the asterism of the Crux constellation. Hence, it qualifies the land of the Gekuyu as the land of Eda Eni, or the land upon which the tree of life is established for perpetuity. Now, Gekuyu, the land of Gekuyu is the key to the enhancement of life. It is also the gateway to the higher spirits. God communicates. I mean, you've heard of Jacob's ladder, how the angels of God descend and ascend upon this ladder. Well, the location of this Jacob's ladder, metaphorical Jacob's ladder, is the axis Moody, or the tree of God, and its location is the land of Gekuyu. The great mystery of the axis Moody, or the tree of life, is also that this tree of life doubles also as the gateway to the netherworld, the gateway to the inferior spirits, the gateway or the key also to the destruction of life. Now, how is this so? That the tree of life, the fruit of the tree of life and the tree of life itself is also the tree of knowledge of good and evil. It is the tree of knowledge of good when it is properly maintained, and when the law and all the institution, the entire institution regarding this tree of life is properly observed. This tree is the tree of knowledge of good when it is properly maintained, when it is properly cultivated, when humanity does not attempt to eat of the fruit of life or to destroy life. However, this same tree is the tree of the knowledge of evil, when humanity disregards the institution and the law regarding how this tree is to be maintained. When man decides to cut down or to dig deep into the roots of this tree, they open up the portal to the destruction of the world, and they open up the earth. They unleash the evil spirits, or they open this portal which allows all the evil spirits to go up backward and control the earth. As well as the higher constant battle upon this land of Eden. For the theme of their battle and how humanity is truth or is deceived into occultic knowledge, the hidden knowledge, that is the knowledge to do evil things. Now, the more of humanity that chooses the knowledge to do evil as of the knowledge to destroy earth and the capacity of the earth to hold life, then the more of destruction, cycles, and the more downward spiral of destruction the world gravitates into. However, if enough of humanity were to refer back to the ancient wisdom and truth of the universe and ascend to that truth, more of us would get enlightened, and in our enlightenment, we would actively maintain and cultivate the land of Eden and keep the tree of life according to its stipulations and hence get closer to enlightenment and the achievement of eternal life. Eternal life here means the fullness of life for all beings. This is the iconic shrine of the Agikuyu known as the Chania waterfall. It was of historical importance to the Agikuyu nation, for it was the once in a generation venue of the institution and cultural practice of the Itueka. Now, what was the Itueka? Now, literally, the Itueka refers to when the cloud transforms into flowing waters. The metaphor identifies the handing over of power from the elderly age set of the nation to the new age set of the young, that is, when the young transformed into the guardians and keepers of the mysteries of the Agikuyu. Now, the preparations preceding the Itueka ceremony involved the paying of an Itueka fee in terms of goat and sheep by every able-bodied Agikuyu man to their elders. Now, once this fee had been paid, then the seers or the Arathi, the 12 of them, would coordinate the process of the Itueka, and again, every able-bodied Agikuyu man would meet within the proximity of these particular falls, and it was within this meeting, which lasted several weeks, that the final instructions regarding the ceremonies and their meanings of the Agikuyu, together with the meaning of the deepest mysteries of the nation, would be unveiled to the new age set of the nation. Now, the last time that this Itueka ceremony was performed successfully was back in the 1860s. Another ceremony had been scheduled within the next 70 to 80 years, and that would have befallen between the 1920 to 1930. However, this particular time found the Agikuyu nation deeply divided in the middle due to the interference of the colonialists who had introduced their ways among the populations of the Agikuyu. Now, it was actually again the colonialists who proscribed the preparations and the ceremony of the Itueka at pain of death. Actually, several of the Arathi who ignored and revolted against this law of the British, which sought to reign over their cultural institutions. Now, these Arathi, several of them were hunted down together with their few bodyguards and ruthlessly murdered. And hence, the Itueka ceremony by 1929 had not yet transpired, and the Council of Elders of the Agikuyu was dissolved by the law of the colonial government. Thereafter, in 1934, the Arathi, the 12 of them, were also proscribed, and as they were seen by the colonial government as the uniting office of the Agikuyu nation. Hence, they were the arch enemy of the intent of the colonial government for the country. Now, within the cultural practice of the Agikuyu, there are various hints of what was involved within the Itueka ceremony. Now, part of the information that has reached us in regard to the Itueka ceremony was that the last of the activity of the ceremony was the luring of a creature known as Damathia from this particular pool. And the creature would be lured by presenting to him one of the most beautiful maidens of the nation, fully covered with castor oil. Now, the creature, after seeing this beautiful maiden, would come out of his hiding, but would not be able to lay hold of the maiden as she was totally covered with slippery castor oil. Now, the young men would come out of their hiding and chase the Damathia upriver until one of them would be able to pluck off one of its tail feathers, and whoever managed to pluck off one of the tail feathers of this creature was granted the wisdom and foresight to know the future of their next generation. Now, this entire narrative is actually only a metaphor of what actually was involved in the practice of the Itueka. Now, the Damathia here symbolizes the wisdom that was held from the ancient times by the elders. Now, in order to lure this wisdom out of the elders' composition or minds, the young men were to give this Itueka fee, which fee in terms of goats and sheep would actually not be held by the outgoing age set, since they were all aged, and in that they would have to leave this same inheritance to their own children, who apparently were the givers of this fee. Then indeed it was comparable to that the Damathia would actually never be able to grasp hold of the young maiden, but that the maiden would always sleep, but the young men would have taken opportunity to garner from the aged people the last of their wisdom, which was relevant for the future of how the next generation was supposed to live upon the land. Now, the name Itueka may be compared to the practice among the eastern religions and cultures known as the Itihesa. Now, in Itihesa, the meaning has been that which has come to pass, or rather, so indeed it was. That's the literal meaning of Itihesa. Now, in comparison, Itueka more refers to that which is to develop, or the passing over, or the actually the maturation of the tribe, or of the young men into the leaders of the nation. Now, the name Damathia may be found in its phonetical meaning to hold the great meaning as follows. Da is for granting or giving, or a mountain. Ma is for waters and truth. The is for receptacle, and A is for beginning. Hence, in creation language, Damathia means the mountain of water or truth, receptacle first. which rather implies the true origin of the granting of truth about the water origins. Now, in the Hebrew language, Mathia, which is the name Matthew, means the gift of God. Da in Hebrew means knowledge, or the door of knowledge. Hence, Damathia in Hebrew implies knowledge, which is the gift of God. Also in Greek, Mathia, as in the name mathematics, implies wisdom or knowledge. And Da means to give, or also stands for the earth. Hence, the name Damathia means the impartation of knowledge and wisdom, or the earth knowledge and wisdom. Hence, in at least 3 languages, the name Damathia has got every meaning of knowledge that is the gift of the divine. Now, apparently, during the translation of the Bible into the Gikuyu language back in the 1920s, there was deliberation of what Damathia meant, and it came about as that the dragon had been interpreted as Joker, and that was the interpretation that those who were knowledgeable in the Gikuyu language had given to the interpreters to those who were bringing the Bible to the Gikuyu. However, when the Bible went into print, instead of the name dragon being interpreted as Joker, it was found that they had instead slipped in the name of the dragon to be Damathia, which is contrary to the true meaning of the name Damathia. For according to the Gikuyu sages, Damathia was actually equatable to the divinity of Christ, and had totally nothing to do with the rebellion of the serpent and the devil. Now, this schism between the Adhomi, or those who had turned into, who had been turned from the Agikuyu culture into Christianity, was one of the reasons that the ancient sages of the Agikuyu would not embrace Christianity, and one of the points of division as was orchestrated by the European powers. Now, with this kind of division then, and as this division continued, then the elders who are knowledgeable in the mysteries of the earth and of the science as had been received by the ancestors of the tribe, were not at liberty to hand over or to grant these mysteries and their meanings to these newcomers, nor their own children who had kind of revolted against their own nation of the Agikuyu. Hence, the Itwika ceremony, not prospering within the time that it was meant to be, became one of the greatest loss for the modern world in terms of the transfer and perpetuation of the most expedient and relevant knowledge of the world. Now, in conclusion, I would like to state that, as we have seen, the tree of life and its location in Eden is the metaphorical description of the detailed science and geography of divine order. It is the imperative knowledge
requisite to all earth generations for the ideal inhabitation upon this earth, and for the realization of the optimum and grandiose life experience for all beings, the one and only key to striving at attaining eternal life. The loss of this science, or rather the rejection of this knowledge by humanity, is the greatest evil, or the root of the evil, not only of our predecessors but of our own time, a sin which has led us to continue exacerbating upon the destruction of the planet. And at this time, we are at the brink of realizing the terrible resultant of having perpetually and continually destroyed our home. Now, this fearful outcome, that is the annihilation of all life from the planet Earth, has got no other way of stopping nor reversing except by reverting back to the ways that were sure, to the wisdom that was known by our earth ancestors and as was espoused within the hegemony of the Agikuyu culture. Hence, my plea is that we should all embrace this ancient wisdom and carefully investigate the evidence for the location of the tree of life and the science associated with it, and determine as to how we should proceed after learning these great and amazing truths. Ewamboi wa maito enyitia mwethio wega ngakwendya kindu kirito. Ewamboi wa maito enyitia mwethio wega ngakwendya kindu kirito. Guku kwa mwari wito ingurara na dinde ingayirwo na marua. Guku kwa mwari wito ingurara na dinde ingayirwo na marua. Nyumba ya mwari wito igitetwo na ithaji na icuthe cia ng'ombe. Nyumba ya mwari wito igitetwo na ithaji na icuthe cia ng'ombe. Tukiringacania twanorete ta ngũrwe twanahĩ njĩra njĩra. Tukiringacania twanorete ta ngũrwe twanahĩ njĩra njĩra. Ndĩrendire gũtwarwo nĩ mathioya na iratĩ nginyĩrĩte Njeri. Ndĩrendire gũtwarwo nĩ mathioya na iratĩ nginyĩrĩte Njeri. Kariuki wa Ndendero nĩ niĩ woini thiangũ na nyama itarĩ nyoneku. Kariuki wa Ndendero nĩ niĩ woini thiangũ na nyama itarĩ nyoneku. Mwihwa warega nyama na warega thakame mwihwa kagunwo nĩkĩ. Mwihwa warega nyama na warega thakame mwihwa kagunwo nĩkĩ. Mucicio ingĩgoka nyondo icio nĩ ithambio ikĩhakagwo maguta. Mucicio ingĩgoka nyondo icio nĩ ithambio ikĩhakagwo maguta. Ingurumagia kĩanda ĩna mũthĩgi wa iregi tũgĩthiĩ kũguĩrĩma. Ingurumagia kĩanda ĩna mũthĩgi wa iregi tũgĩthiĩ kũguĩrĩma.